Welcome to Nameless Debate Radio, where radioactivity is contagious. You can join us in broadening our minds on the Nameless Debates Discord via the link below and even feature here yourself, if you've got what it
again,
takes.
because they took the IRC format, they took Skype, and just mashed it into one thing, and
Yeah,
Well,
I mean,
what I'm
usually what you would have before, you would have a Ventrilo or TeamSpeak free
I know.
connected to the IRC. So
Dude, I've been sitting on like TeamSpeak and like fucking shit for years. But it wasn't a great platform.
All I'm saying is like, it's just cute to me, right? The Germans had the idea of blood and soil, right? That's what ties people together. It's shared blood on shared soil. Discord couldn't be any better a counter argument. Like, I don't need to argue. Just boom. There's no soil here and no shared blood, but the community's all the same.
I think people tend to clump up based on cognitive functions, how they perceive reality and information.
Sure.
Rather than nationality. Of course, it can be fun to clump up on nationality if it's like a sporting event or whatever, or you're just if I meet a Norwegian, of course I'm gonna be boastful since I'm Swedish, and he's gonna do the same, right? But to me, most of the time, it seems like people are very drawn to each other based on their cognitive function.
But like, I don't know, for an example here, right? In this given room, I have more in common with Midnight than anyone else here, right? He's an Australian, I'm an Australian, he shares the same cultural background as me. We understand a lot more things. Like, we share a lot more in common culturally than I do with anyone else in this room.
Yeah,
you can accept that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Actually, learn something about
Midnight is part. No, I'm gonna fucking dox Midnight here. He's part Chinese, part Indian, part like fucking probably half a dozen other things.
Jew. You missed the
part
Jew
part like sorry.
Part.
Sorry, I didn't want to out you. I'm like filthy pure, like I joke like, but I'm like pure British descent, right? Basically, and the point is that I share more in common with him than anyone else here.
That's fine. It doesn't have to do anything with race.
I know. Sorry, Adorite. I do. I share more cultural background. You're like some weird Canadian that obsesses with American politics.
Well, I mean, would you say that all Australians are something you would?
I care about my own. Care about your own country's politics. Fuck other people. Educate them on your country's politics.
All everyone wants to talk about is American politics. If you want to talk about Canadian politics,
I don't
can
want
go on for hours.
All right. Can I just say,
American politics?
As a more international view on it, no, I'm just kidding. But that you actually say spag bowl about spaghetti bolognese is, wow.
Yeah, look, we do weird things with language. That being said, Adorite, I can guarantee you, I care far more about learning about Canadian politics. If you were to tell me about Canadian politics, I would be far more interested in that than hearing another person rant for an hour about how bad Donald Trump is.
Ew. You're the only person who'd probably deal with that.
Okay.
Donald Trump.
But you'd be surprised. There's a lot of people in these communities, I think, that would actually be quite interested. And you'll find out that these probably mostly aren't Americans that are quite interested in hearing other people's geopolitics.
Yeah.
Yeah, but because there's so much things that you're not aware of, I guess, in their country that they take for granted.
I don't know, Midnight, would you say that's a reasonable thing to say? That like, would you hate hearing about countries other than America's politics?
America's kind of entertaining. But
but it's done to death, right?
It is. It's done to death.
I'll put it this way. America is The Simpsons. I guess it's kind of funny. It's been on the air for 20 years. We get it.
America is politically like McDonald's. It's very regular, very consistent, kind of comfort.
Well, I mean, if you want to hear something interesting about Canadian politics, how about the fact that Stephen Harper made 70 laws that went against the Constitution?
Ooh,
nobody ever talks about that.
You'd have to tell us who Stephen Harper is. You got to actually explain.
Stephen Harper is former Prime Minister of Canada. He was in office for 9 years because he called elections early. And
yeah, so So you had a prime minister. So you preface it. Pro tip: when you explain that we had a prime minister, his name was Stephen Harper, and he did all these things. When you're talking about it, you need to include your explanation, like explain it as you're talking about it.
Well, no, I said former Prime Minister of Canada. If you didn't hear that,
No, you just said Stephen Harper.
So good, I get it now. It's just
yeah,
that,
I get it now.
If you're not, so this is what I mean by the American politics is like Macca's. It's very accessible. Trashy, but hey,
just got to add extra explanations. But yeah, that sounds pretty crazy that he did that. I don't even understand. You guys, I mean, I guess it's technically possible. It depends on how your country's constitution functions.
I mean, were they good? Were they good laws though? I mean, this sounds like
no.
a crazy question, but no.
No.
It's like, no.
I am like getting a book on it. It's called Party of One. And it's about how because he had majority government for 3 terms, he managed to just like create 70 laws. I do know for a fact that some of them were homophobic and went against the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, such as the right to employment. And
employment?
Yeah, basically in Canada, enshrined in our Bill of Rights, which is basically kind of like the American Constitution or amendments or whatever, we make it. Basically one of the tenets is you have a right to have a job.
I feel like of all the nations in the world, I think Canada would be like the other nation I'd move to, but not America.
Don't move to America.
Foreign. It's too foreign.
It doesn't matter whether it's foreign or not. Their economic policy is horrible. Like if you move to Canada, get this: we have socialized healthcare that doesn't cost you $5,000 a year.
Yeah.
Like
I like the way you guys do things, and
like I'm not kidding. Like healthcare that will cost people in America like tens of thousands of dollars, costs Canadians 10% of their income at most.
We have a socialized health system as well. You don't have to explain it to us.
We're considered.
Sorry, I thought he lived in America, and
Midnight's Australian. I just went through that explanation.
It's all good.
I completely forgot that, but yeah. It also turns out that America is one of like 5 countries that doesn't have health insurance on a national level.
And I'm pretty sure that out of anyone in this room, Midnight probably knows more about healthcare.
Fair enough.
It's all good. It's fine. I don't mind. If anyone's bothering me, I will just tell them. I'm very kidding.
And I'm just letting you, because you probably don't realize you're actually talking to like a medical nerd who just actually like has a degree.
Absolutely nerd. I'm very. Like, if I really want to talk to my specialties will be like biology, since I spent 7 years at uni on that.
Alright, I checked up Stephen Harper a bit, and it seems like some of the things he's done has been overturned by the Supreme Court, so it doesn't really,
Yeah.
So
unconstitutional, right?
So then it works. Your system works, right?
Yeah, it took some time, but it
wasn't overturned until he got out of office. Ergo, lost his government to liberals.
That's rough.
I mean, it does take a long time going through these cases, so it could be a coincidence, right?
Well, like when it comes to like the Supreme Court in Canada, like it's easy for the main like head judge or whatever you want to call him to just like not go through with cases. Like it's sort of like this: if let's say you really want to, let's say a bunch of politicians on the opposite side want gun control, but the main person who's in charge of making sure that bills go through Senate and everything doesn't want that to happen. What they can do is they can make it so that debate never happens until somebody else comes and takes their position and then brings that debate to the table. So there could be any policy that they want to overturn.
Yeah, that sounds like a flaw.
It's a flaw. Yeah, it's always been a flaw, no matter what.
Similar things happen in America, right? Where they do like filibustering shit.
Yeah, it's the exact same thing as America.
Yeah, I know. I don't think they can do that in Australia. They are able to raise those things, and they can't.
Great, good for you.
Like, correct me if I'm wrong, Midnight, because things like question time and other things like pretty much like forces things to be raised. Like any individual sitting member can come in and just like raise shit, and they can't like ignore it.
It's kind of really like Aussie politics has a culture of its own. We're like, question time is there for politicians to just rip each other, and we revel in it. That's what happens. Like
Yeah.
you don't get to stop it from happening. You just get to get ripped on whatever the heck has happened in the week.
You might have it, but it might be ignored anyway, right?
But because our checks and balances are some of the most intensive in the world, we're some of the slowest to get anything done. Like it takes us decades to decide on public projects easily. And then when we go to implement them, it takes us another decade to get it done. So yeah, we've got good checks and balances. We're
so
notoriously slow.
we are slow, but it also the positive to that is the checks and balances, and also the stability. We're an incredibly stable nation as a result.
Yeah,
it's quite interesting because what you're saying right now is the biggest advantage. No, I'm not. I don't believe in democracy, but the biggest advantage for democracy is that it is so slow that technology and social and culture ideas catch up and go past.
Actually, the whole thing is it isn't necessarily right. So this depends. Technically, so I wouldn't even characterize Australia can be slow, but it can also be quite fast. It depends on the issue. The higher level of democracy you have actually means you can adapt quite a bit faster. That being said, I'm not sure what you said by you don't believe in democracy. That's kind of a red flag.
And why is that?
I would say
because it's the best. It's demonstrably the best system we have for dealing with corruption, nepotism, and other things.
Well, he could be like Crambo, where he believes in like the republic rather than the democracy. But yeah,
but it's those.
No. Okay, can I say what I would believe in? I would believe in a system where people are of course allowed to vote, but they have to pass at least some sort of test where they can show that they have an understanding of the politics in the surrounding world, in their own country, just a basic understanding of economics and what they're voting for, basically. So it would that's what I would want, right?
Wouldn't that still be democracy?
Just had a vote just for it. They had to prove that they actually understood the issue that they're voting for.
Wouldn't that still be democracy, though?
No,
I think it goes closer to meritocracy.
It's definitely a modified something between meritocracy and democracy. I'm not sure. What were you saying? Dang it! You said something interesting.
There's problems. The problem is
right.
Technically, it's not a terrible idea, but there are problems with his criteria.
The way I see it is, you get like there's just different qualities depending on where you're seeing this kind of big spectrum. Say on one end you got anarchy, and the other end you've got complete and utter autocracy. You got democracy, some in the middle, and then kinds of ugly hierarchy. If you wanted a system that could chase a goal single-mindedly, autocracy wins. It is the most single-minded role system. It just gets to, you want to get to A, it gets to A. You want a system that's socially responsive, something more like democracy, socially responsive. Anarchy is going to be very socially responsive. But the problem is it doesn't get to anywhere.
Volatile.
Right. So you have your extremes. If you want to look at nations that get public projects and just do them, China gets it done. A lot of dictatorships just get their national projects, boom, done. They sometimes screw up those national projects because they just do them without much oversight, and so you get this kind of bad trade with like the different systems.
Autocracy can be great, but it relies on the person. So
if you would have, in theory, a true philosopher king as your autocrat, it would be wonderful. Unfortunately, we have really big problems in finding such a person, because the kind of people who want to be autocrats generally aren't philosopher kings.
I still disagree with that. Because what does philosopher king even mean? Like some utilitarian crat that's going to sit up there?
No. It's a Plato thing. So Plato believed in the idea.
That's right.
You have your society, and you'd have this special sector, people trained in everything related to statecraft. Like they're intensively trained from birth. You just
isn't that the noble republic thing?
Yeah, kind of like that, right? And they don't even
fuck off.
And ideally, he says they don't even want the power. You make them work a job that they don't even, right? But they're good at it. So they're competent. They hate their jobs, and they're an autocrat. and they get stuff done, right? They're not self-motivated because their motivation is to leave.
Midnight, if it comes down to it, and I had to pick between Plato, I'm picking Diogenes. I'm living I will live the Diogenes life over Plato's. No problem.
My issue with democracy, one of the things I'm just want to say is
go ahead.
Is that as it is today in our society today, democracy is so irresponsible to have as a system because people just doesn't fuck. Not really. They want a short-term solution usually, and they are just interested in what can I gain right now, right? So it's very much instant gratification. Now, of course, the politicians understand this, so they will say whatever they want. And if you have someone that has a true ideological basis, or they actually are a believer, want something good, they are seen as a threat to all the other politicians that are just happy maintaining power and just staying in their positions, right? They're not really interested in the best or welfare of the people. They're interested in themselves. That's at least what's happening here, right? In our country. So what happens is that anyone that has any actual backbone will never advance from the grassroots level. They're just not welcome because they're seen as a problem. Because if you have a person with a backbone and it advances in a political party that is corrupt or a system that is a bit corrupt, they're just not welcome up there. They are going to be, worked against, and they're not going to get the promotion from the party you need to be elected.
Yeah, I can give that story of yours actual real life examples because I've been there. I used to dabble in politics, right? You don't even need to be a visionary, and it doesn't need to be corrupt. You just need to be someone who doesn't follow the party line, right? If you're a wild card type entity, you're generally loved by a party. The problem is you're capable of betraying them. They are very well aware of it, right? Depending on the system you're in, that kind of betrayal can be very destructive to a party. It's in their interest to not have anyone who strikes out like that. It doesn't matter if visionary, it doesn't even matter if they're corrupt. It's just that if you have large political parties, they're going to pick like-minded individuals. And that's kind of weirdly, I would say that's kind of bad, because where you'd normally have a political system that has 100 smart people sitting around, you get instead 2 parties. You should have 100 brains, but you've got 2 parties and just 50 people adhering to each side respectively.
Yeah, exactly. The problem here is the party system that we have.
Yes.
It just allows for such extreme corruption and, well, almost autocracy in a sense, because what you often see, like United States, it's not the presidents really that's behind everything. It's basically, one would say maybe the shadow council if it is what's medieval times, but whatever. It is the power in the party behind it, the leading part, right? They never change, and they are the ones who decide basically, well, this is what we want to do. This is the direction we want to go. And if you don't agree with that, you can fuck off. You don't have a chance.
Personally, I personally think we should end political parties, right? You look at your government, it's composed of these individuals who just represent their electorate, right? This is
then you have the problem
from this group, and he represents that group.
But then you have the problem that you need your voters to be invested in this process, right? They need to understand the different opinions, the views, the personality, and whatever of the person that they're voting. And I'd say that like 95% of the population just doesn't give a fuck about that. That's too much work for them to care about. They would never invest that amount of time unless they've been under oppression for like 200 years and now they finally got to vote, right?
Yeah.
But otherwise, they're just happy watching Game of Thrones, having a barbecue, drinking some beer. Who cares?
I don't know how to motivate people. I actually don't know how it is to get people interested in politics, because that I see the apathy as well. Well, that sucks. I don't know what we're supposed to do about it.
Well, I mean, then you have these people. How do you deal with people? Like, I usually take it like this. So the way I see democracy right now is that you have an adult, right? An adult is saying to his three kids, it's a single dad. Let's say that, all right? It's a single dad, and he's telling his 3 kids, all right, let's vote on what to eat for dinner. Now the kids doesn't understand that eating ice cream for dinner is bad, in the long run. You can do it once maybe, but they will keep voting for candy or ice cream or chocolate cake for dinner because they want it in the short term. It's not good for them. That's basically how I see the voting system and democracy right now. There's a bunch of children that doesn't want to hear that. Okay, maybe you need to eat this instead. Maybe you need to do that. They're not interested in that because they just want that little ice cream right now.
Yep. So I have a crazy solution. It actually loops all the way back to Plato, after all. Maybe we shouldn't get people with solutions in the first place. Maybe we should just survey them for the things they value. Right? Do we really need people to pick the politician, or do we just need them to tell us what matters? I think if people just tell you what matters, that's interesting, right? What is the average kind of feeling about borders? What's the average kind of feeling of taxation? What is the average kind of sentiment of these kind of things, right? And you can have a class of people who just specialize in the interpretation of that and the conversion of those sentiments into policy. So you don't really elect a politician. You instead have these kind of people who interpret these census data to understand what it is a people would have wanted if they cared.
I have a little bit different solution. To me personally, I think that the government should exist of the best that the country can provide when it comes to all kinds. It should then be, of course, rewarded. But I think this government should be eternal. It should work as a tool for the people and politicians. So they will say, this is the influence we have right now. This is the direction we want to do it. And you solve it in the best possible way. And you have people that are actually educated and intelligent will say like, okay, we'll head in this direction. Of course, bad government might go insane, as corruption, whatever. Yeah. That's entirely plausible, but of course you're going to have some sort of control of it. But I don't think that politicians should be the ones running the country. I think that's they are too short term.
Yeah, I could agree with that. I like to toy around with alternatives here. So what I was thinking is something like yours, except I think that the hardest job a government has, the hardest job you have as a politician, is just deciding what it is people value. At the end of the day, the government can only do a finite number of things. It's only got finite funds. It's got to allocate those funds to the finite number of things, and it's got to decide what it is that people want most. Even a government is ultimately something like, it's still in the business of delivering what it is that you want, you the voter want. And I think that's hard, because what we do right now is we kind of jump a couple hoops.
But we have to come
we hope that you care enough that you vote a guy who wants what you want. We hope that you care enough. Yeah? But sometimes people don't. Some people don't care, right? If they don't care, right, they don't really vote for the person that cares for the things that they care about. And then you get really wonky politics because it's filled with a whole bunch of people who don't represent anyone. They don't even need to be bad people, these politicians just don't represent anyone. No one's really taken the care to vote someone that believes in the same things they believe.
But see, here's where the way I see it is that a big majority of the population is basically, in my opinion, retarded.
Oh.
Yeah,
no, I get you. I got two approaches to that, right? Like two other solutions. I like to weigh it all up. How about this? We only allow taxpayers to vote, right?
Well, that would be very close to an old democracy in a certain way, but I don't think that's. Then would it then be how much tax you would be? Would you then have more votes? For example,
it's just that you have paid tax. It's like a checkbox. Have you ever paid tax? If you have paid income tax, then you can vote. Like whatever that bracket is, yeah. But do you have like a thing where you don't earn money, you don't pay tax? That kind of deal?
Sorry, what did you say?
In Australia, if you don't earn more than 20 grand a year, you don't pay tax. Do you have something like that?
No. It's you pay tax for everything here. unless you have a hobby, then for like you can earn up to like $1,000 without paying tax.
Oh, so you're always paying tax. Okay, in your case, you need like a lower threshold. So once someone is paid a certain amount of tax, say like the top 90% of taxpayers, they get to vote. That's one system, right? So these are people who are funding the government. They get to tell how the government should be run because they're contributing 90% of the funds. Yeah.
But now you're getting into a meritocracy, basically.
Yes, yeah, that's straight up the meritocracy. The other way you could do it, right, is you could set some kind of educational cutoff. So it's everyone who completed high school or completed high school and got at least a C, right? And part of getting a C in high school includes lessons in politics as well as maths and science and English, right? So that the people who are allowed to vote are these well-educated people.
I would agree with you if I thought that education in the way the current education works, it would be something that would develop a person's personality and critical thinking. Yeah. But at the moment, I just think it's memory, just training your memory. Basically, that's how I see modern education. So
I could see that. Then then your option is also pretty cool. Something like an IQ test or a test of reasoning, a test of political knowledge. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I said before, yeah, I think that you should have a test where you can prove that you understand. At least you don't have to agree with it, but you have to understand the consequences of voting in a certain way, right? Or another way. Yes. You have to understand the consequences because most people don't understand what happens if they vote for let's lower the taxes. They don't care where the money comes from, not really. And maybe they're lending money just to make it sure, just because they want to get in power, right? Maybe not people don't. Maybe they don't want the government to lend money, or so they have to increase other things, or remove other things that is convenient for them. But if they only care about lowering taxes and the government is lending money, well, that's a bad consequence for them in the long run. So they have to understand that. Okay, so where does this money come from?
Yeah, I like the idea of just paid. We could run this. Is politics doesn't even need to change, but maybe the government should just survey preferences in the first place.
Yeah, but the issue you have now is that you have given the right to vote to everyone. You can't now. How do you remove the right to vote? How can you get people to agree with that without force?
You do what they do with around terrorism, and you just sell it as some kind of positive. The government is semi-automated. You don't need to vote anymore. I'm very cynical about human beings. You can sell some bullshit as a positive, and there'll be a large number of people who will actually just buy it. And that's just like the sad reality of the world.
I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to having an IQ test as well, where you would have to score, I don't know, above 110 maybe.
Yeah, so that's an approach.
I mean, as a part of it. I'm not saying it's exclusively.
Yeah, no. There's a whole bunch of weird ways that you can try to kind of figure out what makes for a good vote. One is paying taxes, another is education, general and specific education, average intelligence. All these are like ways of measuring what makes a good
candidate.
What?
Oh, you should I just like a good candidate. I just wanted to finish what you were saying.
Oh no, he was talking about like
voting,
testing people before they even get to the voting booth. So like, you set this test, and if you pass it, you get to vote. And if you don't get to vote.
But you have the option, of course, of taking the test again in an appropriate amount of time, right? So it's not like you're excluded for life.
Okay, yeah, so it's not one-off.
Here's the thing.
I don't necessarily disagree with that, because that's kind of how, not completely unrelated to voting, but like that's how it is in some work-related system. Like you need to be able to pass the test to be qualified to do that job, not just do it because you're just a good worker, or you're just qualified due to other reasons. Yeah, you have to take tests. So I don't necessarily disagree with that at all. Because
So, I mean, it would be
become management for no reasons.
it would be the same of saying like, yeah, you need to take a pilot license to fly a plane. You know, that's not. You know.
I'm just gonna fly a plane.
Yeah. You know, we're not trusting you a car until you get your driver's license. We're not trusting you the nation until you get your voting license.
Well, if I may
Fair enough.
step in here, like, there's a main problem that I have with this if it is education based. Like, that can be so, like, it can be so open to abuse that, like, especially in the modern day, like, if we did that sort of thing in the modern day, then, like, historically, blacks have been, you know, put into, like, low-income places where there isn't great enough education. So if they aren't getting good enough education, that would highly impact how they would do on the test, depending on how you structure it. Right? Like, you see where I'm coming from?
And there has been in the past things that have stopped people from being able to vote, specifically black people, because they either had to have like that clause in order to do it, or not be a slave, or just like all kinds of different things, and it's subject to be abused regardless.
That and like, just like, I don't think that intelligence has an impact on, or should have an impact on how you vote. I do think it does have an impact on how you vote, but I don't think it, like, on your ability to vote, it shouldn't have a precedent on it.
But then we're coming back. Did you hear what I said about the dinner, about the adult and the kids?
Yeah, just.
So the kids win because they're free, and adult is one. But adult knows much more about nutrition and what you know what is good to eat, you know, for the body and for your brain and everything. The children does not. He has to convince the children, and they are not going to be convinced, you know, because they're on a sugar rush, and they're like, "Give me my fucking candy, you piece of shit." You know?
Yeah, the problem here is you got to balance. So, like, I kind of like your test from one perspective, right? If you test someone on how much they understand politics before they go to a voting booth, then you can kind of ensure that your voters know what the heck's going on. And that's kind of a really good thing. Problem is, you get voters who know what's going on, but then they all vote kind of according to their own interests. And the problem is kind of what else is already highlighted. People who tend to know what's going on, the people who have that kind of education and background, they're not going to be African Americans, and they're going to vote for their own interests.
Well,
and that's going to be kind of rough.
But this is where I disagree, because there's well, maybe that's a cultural thing, because people here in Sweden vote against their own interest all the time.
Okay, I mean that's you're right.
I mean, we had an opportunity to break what's it called, uranium, for example, and we can have so much power, we can sell it and become so rich. But people have voted against it. They just don't want it because they value, you know,
their lives,
other things.
That might have been the best example. But I guess it's a cynicism thing. It's hard to trust. I mean, imagine that if I were an African American, it'd be hard to trust smart white people to do the right thing by.
Well, I mean, in a system, you could obviously offer. I mean, hopefully, most people can read, right? So you could obviously offer material so a person could study, or you could have a center where you could just say, like, well, okay, so this is how it is. And if they don't understand that, if they can't get through the information themselves, then that's not because of poor education. That's just because they don't understand it. And I'm not saying black from America, you know, I'm just saying people in general, right? So if they don't understand the information that they're given, why would you ever let them vote? I don't know, you know.
Even in that case, there are a lot of times where they advocate, like, let's just say Democrats, they use black people in order to gain votes, and they're misinforming them a lot of the times. So there is misinformation. So that's why what Midnight was trying to say was, like, how can you trust?
Whoa. Okay, I'm sorry. What? What did you say?
What exactly is it that I said that you're saying what to? You just said, I'm sorry, what?
Democrats spread misinformation to blacks so that they vote for them.
Yes, to gain the majority vote from black people. This has happened.
When?
This happens all the time.
If it happens all the time, you're able to give me an example.
Well, Nixon.
I don't have an example.
Nixon
Because I'm just speaking.
I think it was Johnson or Nixon destroyed the black family by producing the greater social policies and basically encouraged them to go on welfare and all this sort of thing, and that's why you have the ghettos today. Practically.
No, it's because of redlining. It's because of intentional discrimination against other people.
Well, like, it's at the end of the day,
Nixon's administration made redlining more of a thing. You realize that? Like, Nixon's administration literally gave less funding to black communities, which stagnated their growth in education.
Okay, can I just say something? Because I've read into this, and I don't really care about the reasons, but the way I see it, the way that the black community in the United States is ever going to have a better future is if they start taking care of their own problems in their communities. Like, for example, gang problems, drugs, violence. They just need to throw them the fuck out and just, retake their fucking communities, because you can't have communities that are just filled with violence, drugs, abuse, and you can't have a culture that promotes being unintellectual, because studying at school is being a whitey or an Uncle Tom. That's just wow. So I understand that someone can say they don't receive more funding, but that is not usually not the fundamental issue. The fundamental issue is that the society or the group has to kind of rework itself. It has to work hard. I understand that's quite unfair to ask of them, but that's usually how you see a change in something, not just by throwing money on them.
Okay, but the problem is that's an idealistic worldview of it, and that isn't going to work today. And yes, communities can throw out the criminals that they have. I don't know how they would do that. I'm living in my community. I don't know how the hell we would get the white supremacist gangs or the criminals out of here. But yeah, there are things that have been perpetuated throughout history that have disadvantaged these groups. That's one of the major things which has been keeping us around.
Well, maybe if they lost the victim card for a start, they could get somewhere.
They've been losing the victim card this entire time. That's why
they keep perpetuating, it's Whitey's fault.
Well, it kind of is.
Well, you can't blame whites for everything. We built the civilization.
That is one of the dumbest... Okay, that's not what people are saying at all. But the thing is, people who were white were using racial discrimination against these people historically.
Put it this way, when the Irish came to America, we were discriminated against and we were seen as lower than those niggers. But, at the end of the day, we picked ourselves up and got on with it, and now the Irish are probably the most successful bunch of people in the United States, so that's my point. Get over it.
Yeah,
shut up and work through it.
But the thing is, you were, later on, you weren't discriminated on based on your skin color. These people were.
We were.
We know this.
We were seen as subhuman, and we were discriminated.
Yeah, but not based on skin color. You weren't being refused service on a massive scale.
We were.
So your skin color is white, so you're going to get discriminated against because of white people. That's brilliant.
No, that happened, bro. That happened. They saw the Irish race as subhuman.
It's okay. Irish is not a race; it's an ethnicity. Even you should know that.
I'm gonna hop off. Actually, it's been fun chatting to all of you guys.
All right, have a good one.
Yeah.
But yeah, Irish is not a race. Irish is an ethnicity, dude.
I'll read it. Did you say that the blacks are a race?
Yes, black is a race of people, but there are different ethnicities of people. And even then, race is more or less a social construct in the modern day.
Oh. I disagree with that, but okay.
Of course you do.
Well, just out of a more... there are differences. You can say, for example, not all of the medication works the same on us, and there's just different things. So we're it's not just superficial. There are actual differences. Like, for example, Scandinavians are not lactose intolerant as adults, stuff like that. Just it could be environmental, but there are differences.
But that doesn't have anything to do with race, though. That has to do with where you came from. That has to do with the area that you grew up in, not based on your race,
Irish
but
is a
based on the
nationality.
but based
Well,
on
well,
the, like,
that
overall
might be
factors.
true, but there's still a difference. And I mean, it's not maybe it's
What
not
is the
based on.
difference?
So,
What's
so
in
can,
the-
can I just make can I ask a question? So you're basically saying that you think every single person is all the same. You're saying that every race is all the same. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah.
I disagree completely, man. I'm sorry. I
Okay.
can't agree
Why?
with that.
Okay. Why is that?
Because there are
Biology?
differences between each and every race and ethnicity.
Other than skin color, what is the differences?
Well, I mean, you don't see like I mean, in regards, how would I put it? In the Olympics would be a good example. I mean, most of the black runners win all the running races, and most of the white guys win all the swimming races. It's like because blacks have a
He's
denser
using
bone
what is
structure.
talent and like what is the difference between like physical and mental differences is what makes this different. You gotta see. His name's Mac tonight. He's not gonna agree with you.
You can agree with me, and I'm not going to agree with him. Like, I'm a lefty. He's an ethno-nat. Like,
I'm still in the process of removing roles. I put a bunch of them that aren't quite just the libertarian ones. They're not supposed to be there.
but yeah, and those differences in IQ, like, that is one of the most superficial arguments ever, because places like in South Africa and also in America, whites were literally putting legislation in place which made it so that blacks were getting less education.
Well, you have to understand the reason that the IQ is low in places like Africa is because they have a serious poverty problem and they have loads
yeah,
of
and
kids,
what's
and
the
then
poverty
they
problem?
can't.
Yeah, the white people.
Like,
Well, you can't blame whitey for everything. Come on now.
no, you can't.
This
No,
isn't-
just
this
in
isn't
that
turning-
in that particular.
This isn't.
But
isn't
okay,
turning
but
into,
why is it an 82 in Lebanon?
Well, basically, what's going on is when in Africa, when the blacks have loads of kids, they can't feed them all. So when a baby is young, you have to feed the fucking baby, or like you have to nourish the baby, because if you don't nourish the baby, it won't develop properly, and if it won't develop properly, like the brain won't develop. And that's what happened in Africa.
How do you know that?
Biology, yeah.
Biology has nothing to do. Like, biology has next to nothing to do with IQ.
Well, like if you don't
Like,
feed the
it's
child,
like-
the child's not going to be able to child won't be developed. It's very simple.
Sorry, could you repeat that?
If you don't feed the child won't be developed properly.
And why weren't they getting fed? Because
they're
being
having too
swamped
much
in the-
children and they're in the middle
No,
of the
because they were being
desert.
pushed into ghettos.
What do you mean they're
They were
being
being pushed into
ghettos?
ghettos, which were
No, I think he's talking of a longer perspective than just the last 500 years, more like 2,000, 3,000 years or something, or even more than that probably.
yeah, in places like India that are entire agrarian societies. Like, here's the thing: if you're going to go long term, okay, let's talk about the long term. How about the fact that whites were taking away resources and segregating people so that they weren't getting enough, so that they weren't having access to all the resources? How about the fact that in South Africa, if you're gonna mention that, how about the fact that whites were intentionally segregating people into areas where there wasn't as much fertile farmland, which would impact the amount of food that they're able to give their kids?
Well, I mean, you can't blame whitey for everything. That's my argument.
No, but that's not what anybody here is saying. But white people, because of their race, were using their race in order to be racially discriminatory upon other people. They were creating entire branches of science, literally. To
because all those railroads, hospitals, and clothes are so bad.
Can I ask you something?
Yeah.
Who invented the syringe?
I don't know.
The
Can't tell you off the
Indians.
top.
The Indians
Can't
had
tell you.
syringes 200 years before white people took the technology and invented their own versions of it.
Okay.
Can I ask you who invented the drum?
The drum.
Yeah, who invented the drum? Africans.
Yeah.
Africans invented the drums, but the reason you don't know that is because white people were taking away their culture.
Did they go to space too? Did they land on the moon too?
Wait, can I give some Irish love here? Because all of records online says that it's an Irish doctor who invented this syringe.
Sorry, could you repeat that?
Did they build the pyramids too?
It just says online that there was an Irish doctor who invented the syringe. I don't know if it's true, but that's what everything leads to when you Google it.
That Irish doctor invented the modern incarnation of the syringe.
Well, he invented the syringe, bro. It's practically what he did.
The modern incarnation of the syringe. The syringe itself was invented hundreds of years prior. It just wasn't being used yet.
Can I see the documents? Can I see a citation needed?
Yes, 100%.
There is something that's interesting to discuss, however. Everyone from sub-Sahara does not have the Neanderthal gene. Well, I mean, the whites that live there and those are the interbred and stuff like that. But most people from below Sahara does not have the Neanderthal gene. Do you think that has any relevance at all?
Sorry, could you repeat that? Also, if anyone wants to see the citation on that, tech chat text chat. Good, but yeah, could you repeat that?
Okay, so everyone sub-Saharan. I don't know how it is with Aboriginals. I don't know. I have to look that up. But anyway, everyone sub-Saharan has not Neanderthal DNA, right? Like for example, in Europe, it would be between like 1 to 5% Neanderthal DNA and stuff like that. Do you think that matters?
No. At least from my understanding of the Neanderthal biology, like literally one of the most quote unquote important things about Neanderthal DNA within our DNA is the fact that we have like white in our eyes. I don't know what it's exactly called, but yeah, it also gives some like biological structure to our bones in our body. But I don't think that would have a massive impact, at least not from the research I've done.
All right. What I read, I don't remember. I think what they said is that no, this is of course just a hypothesis, right? So what they argued, and it's called like illustrated science or whatever in Sweden. It's like the scientific whatever.
Yeah.
They discussed that it gave more cranial space. I've bred with Neanderthals. Now I don't know if that's true or not, but if it were, is that then plausible? It could have any effect.
It could, if it was possible, yes. But unless it's proven to be true, then no.
Well, you're open to it, so that's it. I mean, I don't know if it's true, so but I'm gonna watch it. I'm gonna check if Aboriginals have Neanderthal DNA or not.
I mean, I think just like humans overall have Neanderthal DNA because I think it had some impact on our bone structure. I'm not 100% sure, but yeah.
Oh, this is interesting. Aboriginals seem to have a DNA of an unknown human species.
Ooh. That's interesting. Maybe it's the missing link.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I mean, I don't know. As far as I know, I mean, even small changes to the code will have huge ripples, right? It doesn't have to be, of course. Nothing could happen, I guess. But in my opinion, like if you've ever thrown a rock on a water, you would see like these huge ripples in the wave, right? Whatever.
Yeah.
And that would be the same with coding. Like if something is in your code, you would probably get some sort of abnormality or something, right?
Yeah. All right. Do we want to continue this conversation or?
I'm sorry. I'm just reading about the Denisovan, whatever ancestry in Chinese or Asian people. It's quite high, like another species of human. So it would seem that the ways that we've split up, Asian people do have some Neanderthal and then Denisovan or whatever it's called, and Europeans do not have Denisovan ancestry. And then of course you have Aboriginals with an unknown humanoid, and then you would have people in sub-Sahara that has nothing of these. They are just pure humans, basically.
Huh.
So you could say no, that the people from sub-Saharan Africa are the truest form of humanity, I guess.
I mean, I don't think there's, like, biologically, there's no such thing as a true form of humanity. Like, that just doesn't exist. There's no such thing as, like, a true form of it. There can be a pure form of humanity, but there's no such thing as a true form. And by pure, I mean, like, immune to diseases, like, very high amounts of strength compared to all other, like, DNA, like, versions of humans. Also, a question, is it okay if I make the recording bot leave? Like, really nothing's going on.
Yeah, I don't care.
You know, it's good. Instinct AFK dealing with his waifu, so.
Wait. You tell me what institution will teach those kids that when they're surrounded by people of other ethnic groups, they should speak English?
Canada. Our learning institutions.
Your teachers. What the teacher did was correct. You just don't like the form. You don't like the argument she made. But she should have been doing what she was doing. Should have been pressuring them to speak English.
Okay,
which
but
she did.
Behind that is we are not shaming.
So you're saying that we do everything based on evolution and like genetic code?
No, I'm saying that you do everything based on the deterministic mechanics that make you up. Obviously, yes.
Okay, so you're saying that there's never a time. Okay, so you're saying that there isn't choice, and you're saying that
I'm saying that no. There is choice. There is not free choice.
Okay, not free of the.
There's a differentiation in reductionism that isn't clearly made. I've never heard anyone clearly make it, and that is like you have to be just as reductive as is necessary to get down to the bare minimum, so that you can have the depth in explanation that's necessary to capture reality, basically. So you have to be reductionist to the degree where you can establish the